Monday morning, Commanders' first day in pads. Always fun to see the boys out there hitting a little bit. Jaden looked absolutely dialed, but we got an Adam Schefter report about considerably more. Let's have a podcast. What up, everybody? JP Finlay, Mitch Tischler, Beltway Football, live in Ashburn from a tent. It's hot, and things don't seem to be going great with Terry McLaurin and the Washington Commanders. That's not really news. When we recorded the pod yesterday that Terry was here, I said, I don't think this does a lot to strategically move these sides closer. If anything, it might be kind of a PR play by Terry's side. And then today, we get our first
public negotiation.
Yeah, like I don't want to say that it's the team firing back with maybe some information to Schefter, but Schefter is on McAfee and says these two sides are far apart, which we already knew. But the real kind of the first number or hint of a number is wants to make more than DK and perhaps considerably more. There's only three guys in the NFL making more than DK Metcalf, and that's CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. Chase makes 40 a year, Jefferson's at 35, CeeDee's at 34. DK's basically at 33. He makes 32,999,882. So he's, what is that, $18 short of $33 million. Getting to DK, I can understand. Considerably more than DK gets pretty tricky. At the same, now those guys are all way younger. CeeDee and Jefferson are 26, Chase is 25. I also would say,
I think DK's younger too. The same draft class.
Yeah,
I think
DK's younger. He's like 2 years younger.
Yeah.
But for me, I love Terry McLaurin, but Chase and Jefferson are demonstrably better. Like, those two are in their own category in the NFL to me. And I think whatever that next category is, Terry's in it. Now, we don't know the truth here. And even Schefter said, I think. He didn't report anything definitively. He gave himself wiggle room. We can talk about if he's worth it, but for me, this is the first time. All right, Terry's been here for 2 days. Talk to the media at Eastern Motors, signing autographs, clearly getting kind of some public goodwill on his side, and the team, whether they're frustrated or just want to kind of get a little maybe it didn't come from the team. Got to allow that possibly it came somewhere else. But like I have a hard time thinking Terry's camp would describe anything as considerably more.
Right. Because the considerably more part is ambiguous at best.
Right.
You know, is considerably more $1 million a year, $2 million a year, $5 million a year? Like there's some ambiguity there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not good though.
It's not good, and it's why my angst has been high. You know, I liked yesterday that there was the olive branch that was extended in terms of having Terry come back and allowing him to be put on PUP list and all those different things. But you said it yesterday, and you know we kind of knew that just because he's here doesn't mean that they're necessarily closer. And the only thing that I'll say is that, as you kind of were saying, this feels like it probably comes from someone at least around the team in some capacity. And my question is Terry's camp asking for quote-unquote considerably more because the Commanders are offering considerably less?
Sure.
And inevitably, it's a negotiation. They're at 27, Terry's at 35. We end up in the middle at 32, 33. But the fact of the matter is that we're 5 days into camp, and you know we're no closer to seeing Terry put on a helmet than we were, you know, a month ago, 2 months ago, 4 months ago.
Agreed. And I think, meanwhile, I always think of, you know, the opening of Game of Thrones where they like showed every little like city, state, or whatever you would call like all the different factions in Game of Thrones. I always think it'd be really cool if you made one of those for NFL teams, because every NFL team in its own location is building to take over the world, right? Like they're all building to win a Super Bowl, and wasn't on my radar until a half hour ago. I saw it from Schultz. Maybe others have it.
Is this about the Patriots being super interested?
No.
Oh, okay.
So you might not have heard this yet either. I think Sean Payton came out and said this on the record, that the Broncos are really close to an extension with Courtland Sutton. Now, Courtland Sutton hasn't been as good as Terry, but they're the same age. Sutton turns 30 in October. Terry turns 30 in September. Last year, their numbers were almost identical. Like, they both went for a little less than 1,100 yards. Terry had more touchdowns. Sutton, honestly, has had similarly terrible quarterback play until last year, similar to Terry. So if this Sutton thing is going to happen soon-ish, within the next week or so, does that then become this comp? And if that lands at 26, is that AP, Brandon Sosna are like, look, dude, if that lands at 31, or Terry and Buddy, like, look, dude, so like all of a sudden we have, now Sutton's career production doesn't touch Terry's.
Right, yeah.
But last year does, age similarities, similar teams with a young quarterback.
Do you know what the Broncos cap space looks like? I mean,
I can pull it up. I have it here.
Yeah.
These are also extensions, so it doesn't really impact your immediate cap space. Broncos aren't swimming in cap space. They're like bottom 5, bottom 6, but the next year is what you're looking at anyway.
Yeah. Listen,
Terry's a better player than Courtland Sutton. Frankly, I think Terry's a better player than DK Metcalf.
Agreed.
Next year, they have plenty of cap space.
We saw this with Deron Payne and John Allen when they were signing their deals. Once somebody signs, the next guy that signs is going to get a little bit more and on down. And so maybe Terry is top 4 when he signs this deal, if there's a deal to be signed. But within a year, he's going to be top 10. Within 3 years, he's going to be top 25 or top 30 or whatever the number looks like. The longer this thing goes, the more money it's going to cost. I mean, maybe Sutton comes in low and gives the team a good baseline for it, but 1 year's production from Courtland doesn't equal the 6 years of production from Terry, the 5 years of production from Terry, and
Sutton has been in the league longer. Terry's rookie season was 19, Sutton was 18.
Right.
I believe in 2020 he missed a bunch of time. Now that was a weird COVID year. I can look up what happened, but he's been pretty durable his whole career. But Sutton only has 2,000-yard seasons out of 7, whereas Terry has 5 out of 6.
5 out of 6.
And probably would have had 6 out of 6 that rookie season.
Without
he missed
the
last 2
concussions
games.
or whatever. Yeah.
I thought it was his ankle.
Maybe his ankle. Yeah, that's right. Either way, it's not great that Schefter is reporting on this, but also Terry is amongst the biggest names of of contracts that aren't done yet that around the league, and so it's going to garner national attention. The reasoning behind Terry coming back, coinciding with ESPN and NFL Network being here, puts it on the national radar even further. I appreciate Terry for waiting until after practice both days to come out to, talk with his agent and sign autographs and stuff for the fans so that it doesn't become a practice time distraction. But every time that there's video of Terry, of Chance Fant and Terry and him, signing autographs and talking to folks as he walks up the hill, the more that it becomes, that it's a national thing for folks to talk about. And we've given this front office a bunch of credit for not negotiating this in the public. I find it hard to believe that, by the time this podcast / YouTube video comes out, that we might not hear a fire back from the other side about, what's being offered and whatnot.
Right.
And all of a sudden now we get to revert back to, the good old days of, kind of the he said, she said stuff. So, you hope that it doesn't devolve into that. But Schefter, not reporting it, but coming out and saying he's hearing or talking about, certainly carries enough weight in and of itself.
It also is just like, the longer you wait, the more it costs. And so it's like, do I think Terry is better than DK? Yes. Do I think Lamb, Jefferson, and Chase have separated their level of play?
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, Lamb gets a ton of targets, but is also really, really good. Jefferson and Chase, to me, are clearly a different world.
Just real quick, those top 3 guys are a force feed the ball to them, 15 targets, 10, 15 targets a game, whatever the number looks like. And while Terry does a really good job with the contested catches, I don't know that Terry is quite, not quite the receiver that can turn a game and be a force of the ball to him 15 times, and that if he catches 10 balls, you have a better than average chance of winning.
For sure.
Now that being said, Terry is still damn good, and I'm not taking anything away from that.
It's tricky. It's very, very tricky, and I don't know exactly where it's all going to land.
I took this picture today of Terry was out there talking with his agent. Meanwhile, Jaden was right behind him, signing a ton of autographs for the fans and stuff like that, sweating his face off and walking off the practice field. It felt wrong that the two of them weren't in lockstep together, working on the practice field together, walking off the field together, all the different things we see from those guys.
Well, and if it's to make it Star Wars, right?
I'm not a Star Wars guy. You're going to lose me here.
All right, but Terry and his agent won yesterday.
Yeah.
And the Empire kind of striked back today, but not only with whether the team did or did not have anything to do with the Schefter stuff. We don't know.
Right.
I would speculate perhaps somebody with some sort of ties. But the other part is that the offense looked good today.
Yeah.
And Terry wasn't there, and it was first day of pads, and a lot of that was Jaden. I think it was Jaden's best day at camp. He was excellent. I thought Jalen Lane looked good. I thought
the tight ends looked good today.
The tight end, and Ertz wasn't out there. Sennett had a hell of a catch on a absolute laser from Jaden.
Is that the little seam ball?
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
it
beautiful. I was going to bring that up when.
And so it's the offense has kind of looked a little stalled. Today it looked great, and whoa, all of a sudden Terry wants 36, or at least that can be the conversation. So it's just this pendulum swinging.
Well, I think when you look at it, as these two sides are negotiating, Terry's saying, look, I've done more than Cortland Sutton. I've done more than DK Metcalf. He's not saying it. His agent's saying, hey, he's a better player than these guys. He deserves more money. Meanwhile, the team is saying, hey, we have one of the 3 to 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He can make anyone look good. And so, there's both sides have very legitimate discussion, argument, points for why he deserves more or less money, which is why at the end of the day it's going to come down to, how much is either side or both sides going to be willing to meet in the middle, because there's going to have to be some level of that. The team's not going to pay him 36. I doubt Terry wants to sign for 26, 27, whatever that number ends up looking like. So there's going to have to be some, what is it? Every good deal, hurts everybody, hurts both sides, is painful for both sides. I think that's kind of where we're going to be sitting as we talk about, this deal. Deadlines spur deals. Hopefully that's what gets it done. But I just hate that this thing is the way that it is, and quite frankly, maybe not much has changed if folks weren't, getting overly excited about Terry being there yesterday. But I'll say one thing that was cool. I think yesterday you were hanging around with Terry. You talked to him as he was walking up the steps. I love that the security staff and whatnot is highlighting getting these autographs for kids.
Yeah.
And making a point of
Well, that area where he's been going to is the kid zone.
Right.
That's supposed to be for kids.
There's obviously parents with the kids and whatnot, and other folks who are getting autographs, whether they should be getting them or not, with other things happening. But I like that the crew is working with the kids to make sure that those guys these kids get their memories, and that's part of what's cool about being out at a training camp is that's the time to to get those to get the memories and then set the Commanders fandom.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Beyond the Terry stuff and Jaden looking great, was there stuff at practice today you wanted to discuss?
Yeah, I mean, listen, O-line, D-line, once they line up in pads, is when you get a first real look at it. I particularly liked that they were working on a bunch of run game stuff. I'll start with DQ before practice was talking about, just that, how important pads days are for line of scrimmage. And lo and behold, immediately he was at the corner of the field with the D-line working on technique, and you could see those guys were working on run fits and splitting double teams and stuff like that. And DQ was extremely hands-on to the point that he's, grabbing Johnny Newton and kind of turning him and putting his hands on him and letting him kind of feel what he's looking for. I would have liked to have seen a little more, one-on-one stuff or pass rush stuff, because you really only got that when they got to 11s. But it was, we talked about Jaden and the tight ends looking good. A couple of those little seam routes were one of the things that I was talking about heading into the season about this O-line, with Tyler Biotish being out there. The defense is trying to mix up coverages and mix up looks on them. And, 2 or 3 separate occasions, you had a free blitzer on the outside, which is by design on a lot of those on a lot of that quick stuff. And it's on the quarterback to know, hey, I'm going to have a free blitzer from either my left or my right. It's on me to beat that guy and get the ball out quickly. And we saw that on the Ben Sennett pass. I thought it was just perfect. Came with a little blitz. The defense came with a little blitz on the inside. You saw everyone, shift down and get their man.
He had like a free rusher coming from the outside.
And he had a free rusher. Yeah. And Jaden, right off the snap, looked at, I believe it was Dietrich Wise, and basically was like, hey, I know you're free. Bang, got the ball to Sennett, right in stride. It would have been a big-time play.
Yeah, totally. It was fun to get to watch some actual hitting. It was a relatively quick day, and for the first day in pads, wasn't the most physical day.
Right.
Still, though, it was a step, a progression. I thought DQ yesterday gave some real answers on the Terry showing up stuff, and today was just Dikembe, just no. He got asked about Terry's ankle situation with the pup list, and he ended up answering about mostly Cosme.
Well, he compared him to Cosme.
Yeah, he's well, they got their benchmarks,
they're both
and we're not
working
going to
back.
miss a step. And okay, dude.
I thought Josh Connerly looked pretty good today. We've seen a couple times, struggle isn't the right word because they're not in pads, but we've seen Connerly get beat with speed on the edge a little bit. Today in pads, was a little bit of a different story. He was going up a little more against Wise and Armstrong.
Well, Vaughn was down. There were a lot of veterans down today.
Laramie didn't practice today. Ertz. Noah Brown didn't.
I don't think Wagner went, right?
Wagner was out there, but he didn't do a lot in the 11s.
We need to put a pin in this, the Mariota situation. He hasn't done team the last 2 days. Yeah. Maybe they're just getting the other guy some more reps. They just know Marcus's role.
I was going to say, you kind of know what Marcus is, but yeah, that's a decent pin. I like it. But Connerly specifically, against Armstrong and against Wise. Dietrich Wise gives such a good look in these both pass and run reps, in that he goes hard, man. And he is a through the echo of the whistle guy. And certainly there's, a little bit of chippiness there, but not the over-the-top stuff. There were 2 back-to-back reps I thought were interesting for Connerly. With Wiley playing on the left side because Tunsil wasn't there, Connerly got all of the first reps on the right side. And on 2 consecutive passing plays, Wise kind of tried to beat him with a bull rush, and Connerly, a couple steps back, was able to set his feet and get underneath Wise and kind of force him to the inside. And then the next one, Armstrong came at him, gave him a little juke to the outside, then tried to beat him inside. And Connerly just, what you want to see in those situations, you kind of let Armstrong's momentum take him all the way inside and probably across to maybe where the left guard was or so. Armstrong ended up going down on his back, and Connerly kind of, obviously helped him up and whatnot. Wasn't quite a pancake block, but it was a pretty nice little. Hey, I have the strength to keep up with these guys. Now, when Vaughn comes back and they're in pads, I want to see where the speed mets out with him.
Yeah, I'm with you there, man. It was really good to see. I mean, I've talked about it at length. I just thought Jaden was so good.
Yeah, he was so good.
All the throws were just so perfect, and he seemed to enjoy it. And fans were good. It wasn't as crowded as yesterday. I mean, difference between a Sunday and a Monday. Yeah. I thought it was a really good, fun crowd. They kind of needed today, I think, because it not that it was sleepy, but it wasn't wasn't the most energy, I would say, and then the offense hadn't looked that good, and then today it was just everything clicked.
Right. Sam Hartman looked pretty good today.
Yeah.
He had that.
Well, and it's kind of like, is he your third string quarterback?
Yeah,
Like
Josh Johnson. What's?
Josh Johnson has been in the league for a long time. He's just not a very accurate passer, but super athletic.
You said it really well on the sideline, and I know we've said it on this podcast before, but like, you'd love if you could have combined Taylor Heineke and
Carson
Wentz, right? Like,
if you give like Heineke's brain and guts into Wentz's incredible athletic gifts,
right,
you got a player.
You can say the same.
If Hartman had Johnson's arm strength, you got a player.
But Hartman dropped a couple in the bucket today really nicely. He had the one over the shoulder to Tay Martin, who, what did he average? 49 yards a catch last year?
That's right.
Is that right?
Dude, very funny scene. So I got a one-on-one with Quan Martin today, and I was looking for him, and one of like the interns like, oh, Martin's over there. And I look, and it was Tay Martin. So Quan Martin wears a red 20 Martin jersey, right? Tay Martin wears a white number 6 Martin jersey. And I look over and I just did a quick double take. I was like, oh, I just said in my head, I was like, oh, that's Tay Martin. And maybe it was Greg actually that was messing with me.
Greg may have made a little.
But what was great was there's just like an army of kids yelling Quan at Tay Martin because they just see the Martin jersey.
Yeah.
I thought that was fun.
That is pretty funny. I like that. Big day for Biggie. You talked to Quan Martin. I talked to Jordan Morgan after practice. That was
Jordan McGee.
Jordan McGee.
You're like the lead bus driver of the Jordan McGee fan club, and you just called him Jordan Morgan.
I actually tweeted Jordan Morgan once this afternoon. I don't know how I got that stuck in my head, but you know what it is?
The McGee thing is interesting because it keeps just being Wagner and Louvu.
Yeah.
And today they kind of ran it.
Right.
You know, like it was one thing like, all right, well, they're not going 3 backer sets yet because there's no run install. And not that they're really installing, but
they did some run work, though. I also think Louvu hasn't lined up as a defensive end really at all in camp, or a hand in the dirt defensive end. He's kind of, rotated over and rushed the quarterback a little bit from different positions. From the beginning for Jordan McGee, that's where it's been, is if Louvu is asked to be a passing down pass rusher, then that's where the Jordan McGee stuff makes sense. But yeah, he hasn't had a ton of reps at linebacker, at least with the first team. But they do have him calling the plays with the second team. They're not green dotting the helmets yet, but if they did have a green dot, it would be him. So they're getting him some valuable reps. He talked a little bit about getting to work with Von Miller, and I think as all of these guys on the defensive side talk about it. You have 2 pretty dead set first ballot Hall of Famers in Bobby Wagner and Von Miller, which is just crazy to think about on this defense. And then you have a guy, an ascending linebacker in Frankie Louvu, who was he All-Pro last year?
I think he was second team. Didn't make the Pro Bowl.
So there's a lot of good stuff for these guys to work on and get to know. And
Debo talked at length today.
Yeah, we'll have Debo and Trey Amos pressers after this pod. You can listen
Debo stole my chair.
Did he?
Yeah. And when you have the name Debo, you Debo things.
Yeah.
And you know what I did with
You didn't ask for it back?
Nope. I just stood.
Did he ask you for it, or did you just grab it?
No, he walked in, and I was kind of right behind him, and Trey Amos was at the podium talking. So Debo just grabbed the chair, and it just happened to be mine. And I'm cool with it.
Whether you were cool with it or not, he was taking it.
Correct, and I'm joking about it anyway.
Yeah.
But I did sneak a picture of like him sitting there with my name tag, which I don't know Debo very well yet, but down the road I may show him that.
Show it to the camera if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
This pod, like a bunch of them, are going to be. That's very funny.
Right.
Are on YouTube, so feel free to.
There were also like a ton of open chairs. I could have gone and sat down anywhere. It was just funny.
I can't wait to roll out the Debo from Friday GIF and have a little bit of fun with that.
You should.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a one thing?
Yeah. Before we get to one thing, and maybe this can be my one thing. Before we get to one thing. Today was a good day for the offense. You had Luke McCaffrey, who made a nice catch, and then had another.
I had this.
Was that your one thing?
No, but it was the only other thing I had to discuss.
And without Noah Brown out there, without Terry McLaurin, Luke, and now you can get to Luke because I don't want to get too deep into it,
sorry.
but because I was more making the point about Trey Amos, which I've sort of kind of danced around. You know, you love seeing him staying step for step with all the different receivers that he's being asked to line up with, and he's done a good job with it. Until you see 17 out there, 85 and 17 out there, it's hard to really get it. It's great that he looks good against second, third, fourth, off the team kind of guys. But it's a different level of competition when you get Pro Bowl level player in Terry McLaurin back out there. When you get a guy who likes to DBs on his own in Noah Brown in the 11 on 11 stuff. We haven't seen Noah do much in 11 on 11s, I don't think. Any, maybe. And that's
yesterday.
Yesterday he did?
Yeah.
Anyways, not a whole lot. But so there's some ramp up period there for it. I am optimistic with Trey Amos, but I also would, I'd also keep it with, we still got to see it happen with some higher caliber players before I'm ready to anoint him anything.
I'm with that. I think Luke has been inconsistent, and I think he can get separation, but then finishing plays. He had a look today that would have been a tough catch, kind of a sliding low ball, but like ideally you start making those.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just finishing plays off. And then I thought Jalen Lane has had a really good last 2 days.
Yeah, he really seems to be getting comfortable and understanding where he's supposed to be. I think with Jalen Lane, I think the thing that we're seeing most is his footwork is getting a lot better in a very short period of time.
And he has one big difference is Luke did not grow up playing receiver. Jalen Lane, his dad was a coach, has been a receiver his whole life, I believe. And like you could see it, like today they would have had a nice big gain, and Jalen Lane, like I think started on the outside, or maybe he was in the slot, but on the left side, and he just kind of worked down and then stopped in a little soft zone. Yeah. He had to jump to get the ball, kind of high point it, but it was just like exactly what you needed. And honestly, that singular play, and I don't want to extrapolate too much, but like it reminded me of Crowder, which is kind of what I thought they wanted him to be. Like I'm talking young Crowder, when you had Jordan Reed and Pierre and Deshaun, and he had some real juice.
And they're not tackling to the ground here; they were kind of thudding.
Right.
But I like what I've seen with Jalen Lane with the ball in his hands. He seems to have a pretty good nose for finding openings.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thud in camp today, and
that was going to be my one thing.
But go for it. No. Let's get to one thing.
We've mentioned Bill Merritt a number of times, and definitely the most contact today. And the play is up. I put it on my Facebook. The Commanders tweeted it out. Is Merritt with a nice interior run. Oops. Actually, the one they posted might not be the one I'm thinking of.
He had two nice interior runs. That might be the other one.
One of them, yeah. Maybe they posted, yeah. This is it. And Tyler Owens, the undrafted guy, safety last year that there was so much excitement about, kind of met Merritt in the hole, and Merritt just lowered his shoulder. And Owens kind of squared up. Like, neither was trying to hurt or drop. Like, if it was a real football play, I'm guessing Owens might come in lower or whatever. But it was a good thud. It was a good pop. And Bill Merritt is playing well.
Yeah.
And then you wonder, with the receiver room being what it is, and ideally being able to maybe get some of these younger undrafted guys to your practice squad, like, do you keep 4 running backs? Because Devo's kind of a unique player anyway. I don't know. But Merritt, I mean, we're 5 days into camp or whatever, is definitely kind of making an impression.
Yeah, he's slippery getting through the line.
Yeah.
And that play with Tyler Owens was,
good pop.
Yeah, it was a good pop. And Tyler Owens is, what, 6'2", 220? Like, he's a big kid, 6'1", 200, whatever the numbers are. I mean, he's a pretty big kid. And,
they list him at 6'2", 215.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Almost nailed that. But you think about that pop against a player the size of Mikey Sanderstill, or
right.
And that might be a full-on truck. I'm not saying Sanderstill's getting trucked, but a slighter player, that probably is a full-on truck from Bill Merritt.
What's yours?
My one thing, Daryl Tapp.
So much energy, dude.
I was over there hanging out with the D-line today, and it's so much energy, but so much attention to detail as well. to the point that they're hitting the sleds, and the modern day sleds are not just a push in; it's a push in and lift up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a two-step process. You can't lift those sleds straight up. You got to push it in to a certain point before you kind of get it to go up in the air. And even those guys are strong enough; they can kind of give it a quick pop and lift. And he's making sure these guys get their arms extended, because that's one of those things when you look at, we talked about it on one of the earlier pods, like Javon Kinlaw has those long arms. Johnny Newton has some pretty long arms for their size or whatever. And that's a real advantage for a defensive lineman. If you're able to get your hands on an O-lineman and get your arms extended, that O-lineman almost has T-Rex arms where they're trying to reach out and they can't quite get to you. And I love the attention to that, because it's not just, hey, let's run through this drill. It's run through this drill correctly. And after that, they started working on, splitting doubles. I talked about Dan Quinn coming over, and they, you could see them working on getting skinny between, guard center combo block type things. And those are places where, these guys can step up in the run game and really make a difference. And, I think in the run game, when we got to the 11-on-11 stuff, you saw those DNs doing a pretty good job of setting edges. There's one thing of setting an edge in training camp. It's another thing when Saquon Barkley's coming at you.
Sure.
But we're talking about baby steps here. Kind of moving in the right direction. And I really like what I'm seeing out of Darryl Tapp, particularly as it relates to run game fits and run game technique.
I like that. I like the cohesion among the running backs. I don't know if you saw it. They've done it a couple times. They probably do it every day. The whole running back room gets together on the side field at the end of practice and huddled up and talked, and then they all did this woo, and stepped out. It was just kind of cool. It was just a fun little thing, and you've got a rookie 7th rounder all the way to a vet like Austin Eckler and everything in between with a dude like B-Rob or Chris Rodriguez or McNichols. That's got to be so bizarre to just be working with dudes trying to take your job but staying close.
Right.
It's just such a unique NFL thing that's difficult.
But I think it speaks to the locker room and stuff like that, because even yesterday we talked about the Mikey Sainristil still, Jaden Daniels kind of fun jabbing back and forth after the 4th down throw to Jalen Lane. And the team posted that on Instagram, probably Twitter too. And you had Mikey and Jaden in the comments having fun with each other. It's a good level of competition. Talked about the Dietrich Wise, Josh Connerly stuff. I mean, you see these guys working hard and giving each other crap, but not letting it get over the top and turn into a distraction or a bad part of practice.
So we just got breaking news here.
Okay.
I see Garofolo tweeting it out. The Broncos and Cortland Sutton reached a deal on a 4-year, $92 million extension. So what is 4 divided by 90? 20?
22 and a half.
Okay, 22 and a half. I don't think there's a lot of comps between Sutton and Terry over their career, but they are both players that are going to turn 30 this fall. Last year, the numbers are very similar. Over the course of their careers, the numbers are not similar.
It's not for Terry's camp if he's asking for more than Debo, more than DK. That's not a great number for them. I don't think that's a good. That looks a lot closer to if Sutton is getting 22 and a half a year. That looks a lot closer to.
What have we heard? 25, 26,
27,
is the offer, right?
And that seems to. That Sutton deal ain't great for Terry. So as much as we talk about the longer this thing takes, the more it's going to be, the more expensive it is. The team just got a nice pat on the back from the Broncos in terms of, where the market mets out for Terry. There's also the game of that contract is 4 years, $90 million. Is how much of that is guaranteed? What is that going to look like? And I think the same.
When we get to guaranteed money here, I'll be very interested.
Right. The same goes for Terry with his deal. If it's 3 years, $34 million a year, that would play out to 3 years, $112 million. But if only 65 of that million is guaranteed, it's really a three. You know what we're saying. Whereas if the team gets him for a 3-year, $80 million deal, but 70 of it's guaranteed, that's where you can kind of find some blur between the lines.
Dun 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 dun. I mean, clearly we just gotta stay tuned.
Yeah.
But it is now the latest extension for an NFL wide receiver.
Right. Is there any? I mean, is T.J. Watt still waiting for one? I think, right?
No, Watt
Did he
got
sign
a
it?
deal. You got a $100 million guarantee.
He and Trey Hendrickson are the only two that are really still sitting there waiting. Big names.
Who?
Trey Hendrickson and Terry McLaurin.
Yeah. Interesting times. All right, what all are we playing?
We are going to go to Trey Amos and Deebo Samuel at the podium. If you made it this far, JP owes you some more singing.
Meet me in the middle.